the general partner of Coco Palms Hui LLC, and they're graciously giving us a preview of the project before it comes before the Planning Commission. So we're glad you're here. Thank you.
Thank you, Rain, for having us today. We're definitely hearing a few recurring themes as we listen to Rain reviewing the potential projects that are slated here on the island of Kauai. And we'll get into those kind of from a broad standpoint and also from a detailed standpoint. But as she had mentioned, these site plans are public information. So we've shared with her our site plans along with our application for the project. And so we encourage you, prior to kind of really diving in at too much of a detailed level, because we only have so much time today, I'd encourage everybody to go and to read that application. And I think that will answer a lot of the questions that are kind of underlying with all these different things that we're talking about: traffic, the environment, sewer, so on and so forth. But we can get into that a little bit later on. But first, I wanted to bring Dirk up. We have a cultural advisory committee that we put together for this project. As many of you know, this property sits on a very, very important culturally and historical site. And part of what drew us to this project was, in fact, I'll just tell you, was this. I don't know how many properties or how many hotels in the state of Hawaii have a book written about the history of the property. And so when I think about Coco Palms, when I think about the history, it is a legacy that was here prior to all of us being here. It was a legacy that was brought about not only by Grace Gusling and all the things that she did, but brought out by Queen Dirk Kapule, as we know. And it was interesting, I was reading the other day, and I kind of wanted to hit this because it struck me today, just about the idea of beneficial use. And when I listen to all of you in this room, part of these questions that come out is, what's the beneficial use? How's that going to affect me? How's that going to affect my kids? How's that going to affect my house that I live in? How's that going to affect my drive to work, so on and so forth? What we try and do as members of the community is we try and work together to solve and mitigate a lot of these issues. But here's Queen Dirk Kapule. This is from David Pentahala's book. And I encourage all of you to read this as well, prior to the January 27th hearing, so that we can get an understanding of how deep this property is and interconnected to the culture and the community of Kauai. So it says that the last king of Kauai, Kaua'i, excuse me for my Hawaiian pronunciation, was born near the future size of the hotel in the middle of the 18th century, becoming king at the age of 16. He was kidnapped by King Kamehameha II and taken as prisoner to Oahu, leaving behind his wife, Dirk Kapule, to fend for herself. Dirk Kapule, a survivor, ended her days running a hotel on the banks of the Wailua River near the present location of the Coco Palms. And so the impression that struck me there is that this is sacred and hallowed ground. But it was Dirk Kapule's intent to have a hotel property there. And I think it's because of her sense of aloha. And I think it's the very reason that many of us, including myself, that weren't born here, moved here, because of that sense of aloha. And because of that idea of lokahi, and the idea of working together and creating unity. So I feel that these meetings are very good, but what I like about them is, yes, it does give us an opportunity to dive into the details and kind of see where we're at back in history and where we're at today. And so with that all being said, we wanted, as we started out and embarked on this journey as developers, we wanted the proper guidance and counsel. And so we put together a cultural advisory committee that could really help us understand the work here and help us understand how important this project is to the Kauai community. So that all being said, we put together this cultural advisory committee to give us guidance and direction. And fortunately, we have Dirk here to speak on that portion.
Aloha kākou, everyone. My name is Dirk Soma. I was born on the island of Kauai in Waimea, but I was raised in Honolulu. And it's really a unique opportunity to be a part of this project. I came back here in 2012. My mom and dad had retired up here about 22 years ago with some land that my dad's aunt left for him. When I was asked to be a part of the project, it gave me some chicken skin. First of all, I'm a graduate of Kamehameha Schools, and in my senior year, they gave away this award called the Grace Gustlander Award. And I was lucky to be given this award. And at the time, I didn't know who this person was. I had no idea who Grace Gustlander was. But through the process of sending thank you letters and corresponding, and I always wanted to get into hospitality. For some reason, these awards kind of matched up. So I got to know about Grace Gustlander and Coco Palms. After I graduated from college, I came up and I managed the Sheraton Coconut Beach at the time with food and beverage. I was the food and beverage director there. So it's kind of like, for me, when I was asked to be a part of this project, it gave me chicken skin. And it's almost like full circle to be back at this property, being a part of what Grace had left for us to carry on. So with that, I want to give you a little bit of background about the CPCAC, our overview, our objectives, our guiding principles, some of the things that we've done since we've been together as a group. Then we want to give you an opportunity to kind of vision the future for the property, and then I'll turn it back to Tyler for an update on the actual property itself, and then we'll do some Q&A as well. Okay, so we were formed in October of 2013. Leaders on island and in the community advised Coco Palms, Hui, Tyler, and Chad that we really need to have a strong community voice going forward. So all the people that you see here were asked to be a part of the Cultural Advisory Committee. Kimo Keawe, who's the general manager of the Cliffs at Princeville. He was a former front office manager and assistant manager at the Coco Palms, and he's got over 40 years of hospitality industry. Kamika Smith, you may know the Smith family, 4th generation in the Wailua area. Danita Ayu, who is our auntie and our kumu on the committee as well. Lena Ala Jardine, who runs a very, very successful halal. La'amea Almeida, who's an education and Hawaiian cultural practitioner. And then myself. I'm not wearing my Chamber of Commerce hat, I'm wearing my CPCAC hat today, but I also serve as the first vice president for the Kauai Native Hawaiian Chamber of Commerce. So very diverse group, coming from industry, culture as well. So we had one of the first things that we were asked to come up with our objectives. What are we about? So our first objective is to assemble the best ideas from respected members of the Hawaiian host community and seek guidance to ensure that the integrity of the property is perpetuated while supporting a resort that is sustainable. Okay? So we're talking about the essence of the land, the sacredness of the land, the fact that Wailua was the capital of Kauai, and it holds very, very strong mana in this place that we are in. Our second objective is to create and present to the Coco Palms Hui a guiding document that focuses on ho'ihi, or the reverence of the property, by honoring and incorporating the rich history and culture of the Aina into the resort's design and programs. So you'll see a little later about the guiding principles that we developed. And the third objective is to provide opportunities for all of Kauai's voices to share their mana'o as the Coco Palms moves from conceptualization to actualization and becomes a destination that emulates the values of aloha and ho'okipa and hospitality. So, great olelo no'eau from Mary Pukui, a'oihana nui, ka'alu'ia. No task is too big when it's done by all. So, though we do see ourselves labeled as the Cultural Advisory Committee, it is the total voice of Kauai's community that we want to incorporate into the development. Okay. So from the objectives, we developed 5 guiding principles, and they are up there for you. First is we want to honor the sacredness of the Aina on which the property stands, and the vahipana, or sacred places, within the surrounding area. We all know that within that corridor, where the Askanoho Beach Hotel is, yeah, the heiau that are there, all the way up the road leading to Opaika'a Falls, okay, Poleahu, heiau. All that area is what we want to preserve, perpetuate, and educate people about. Okay? We want to preserve the history of the host culture, as well as the culture of what made Coco Palms the iconic destination of Kauai. What Grace did back in her day was unprecedented. And you don't see that. our vision is, with the help of the developers and everybody that's a part of this, is to bring that back. Bring that essence of aloha and hospitality back. She treated every guest like family. And that's how we would envision this property being reborn to do. The third guiding principle is to perpetuate the host culture through integrating Hawaiian values and activities into all phases of the operations, so that associates, those that work there, understand their sense of place of their work site and their kuleana, or their responsibility as hosts, to perpetuate this hospitality that we talked about, Ho'okipa. The fourth guiding principle is to offer authentic activities and programs so that guests will come away with a truly unique Kauai experience. What is it that makes, learning from a practitioner at Coco Palms different than what I can get in Waikiki, or different than I can get in Hawaii Island? There are differences. There are unique opportunities, and we really want to make sure that they have authentic Kauai experiences. And then the last guiding principle is we want to provide a gathering place for Kauai's community to honor the Aina and perpetuate Kauai's sense of community. So the resort in and of itself is not just for visitors. We want it to be designed so that we can incorporate locals to come and be a part of it, so that they're not shunned out. Again, if you look at how Grace ran the property, it was open to all. Locals came on a regular basis and mixed with the visitors. Lifelong relationships were built between those in the community and visitors as well through her process. So those are the 5 guiding principles. Some of the things that we've done over the last 6 months, 8 months, is that within our committee we've held monthly meetings to talk about where the vision is, develop our objectives, develop our guiding principles. Every community meeting that we've had, we've gone through all the comments and kind of filtered them out. We've had 7 community meetings, and in each of these community meetings we ask for mana'o, ask for feedback, and you'll have an opportunity to provide some as well. And it's great to see some familiar faces from when we did our Kapa'a community meeting back in March. Yeah, so see some familiar, there's Tech over there, yeah. So it's great to see you folks back at these meetings. And we've taken all of your comments, and it's really interesting because, as Tyler was mentioning, we're hearing some of the recurring themes, and they kind of fall into 4 categories. The first one being Hawaiian cultural issues. When we talk about preserving the resources, right? Honoring the sacredness of the land, utilizing the resources to the best of our ability. The second category are community issues, safety, traffic. Those kinds of things came up on a regular basis. The third category were operational kinds of comments and concerns. How will the managing group, and right now it's the Hyatt, how are they going to incorporate what we're talking about into their daily operations? Okay, we don't see our role as the cultural advisory just working with the developer, and once the building is up, it goes away. We want to infuse and integrate these principles into everyday operations. So from orientation to training to programs to activities to continuing education for all the staff that's there. We want to ensure that that's happening. And in the fourth category, we're kind of like the other. Things that really didn't fit under the 3, maybe weddings, those kinds of things fell under this fourth category. So with all of the comments that we've gathered from these meetings, we've provided reports. The last one there is quarterly reports that we submit to the Kauai County Council with the Coco Palms Hui to give them an update of what's going on. So we summarize everything and provide that in a quarterly report. We've also done site visits and property tours. Hawaii Island Land Trust and the Friends of Coco Palms, we've done a tour with them. Kamehameha Schools Ikukukui program over spring break. We really want to capture the voice of the youth as well, because they're going to be a part of this. By the time the resort is built and running, there are employment opportunities. And many of them had ties to the hotel, which is really cool. Talking about their aunties used to work there, or their uncle. Remember that conch shell that was hanging from the lobby, that big conch shell? Well, one of the students was saying, oh yeah, my uncle built that. And that was really cool to bring them on property and do this walkthrough and let them vision and comment as well. And then we also had Leadership Kauai come and do a walkthrough and a site visit. So here's some of the pictures of the different groups, and Tyler's a great tour guide when he's walking through. And it's great that we have the developer actually walking with the groups, talking to them, and listening firsthand of what these groups are saying and what they're envisioning. So it's really neat that Tyler has been making a lot of time to meet with the groups. Okay, so at this time I want to take a quick little break, and I've got some 3x5 cards and some pens provided by the Kauai Native Hawaiian Chamber of Commerce, and give you an opportunity to kind of jot down. You know, I know many of you have some ideas and things that you would like to see at the property. And if you just want to jot down, 3 or 4 on the card, feel free to do that. And then leave us your email address, because again, as we move forward in the project, we really want to stay in touch with everybody and keep everybody informed. So I'll pass these cards around. Thank you so much. Hey, how's it going? If you don't have pens, I got some going around.
Here, I'll just pass them on.
Anybody need a pen?
Tyler, I was so impressed with your speech classes because all these people had all these names.
Anybody need a pen or
Dressed them all in their speech. All of them. It really diffused everything. So I'm waiting for that to happen today. I loved it.
Could you tell us again what we should put on these cards?
Yeah, just some ideas. What kind of activities might you want to see? People have said, bring back the torch lighting. Make sure that that's part of it. Or if there's a concern about utilizing resources. People have said, landscape the grounds with Native Hawaiian plants. Things that you would like to see integrated into the properties. I think one of Uncle Vern's comments was Hawaiian language lessons. And ensuring that not just the visit, but all the employees would get that Hawaiian language training. And history, right? All those pieces. I remember that comment. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, correct terminologies.
So this relates only to the cultural aspect?
No, it could be anything that, if you have a concern about traffic, if there's whatever's on your mind, right? Or if there's something that you would want to envision, would you want to have the cocktail parties brought back, and then we'll make sure that the hired GM has cocktail parties every night.
So yeah, the spirit behind it is we want to get everybody's feedback. And so the top 3 things that you would like to see at Coco Palms, no matter what it is. Once again, we've said that there's recurring themes, but we want to make sure that we didn't miss anything as we go through this journey. We want to be able to consider everybody's viewpoint and get a sense of where everybody's coming from in the community.
Okay, the Golden Cake was at the top of the old Kauai, sir, when, persecuting Makolas.
Bring Tyler back up and let him take us through the nuts and bolts of the project and where we're at.
Thank you, Dirk.
Yep, appreciate it.
Here's some more.
So, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dirk. As a developer, and I'm going to use that word because some people try and stigmatize developers. If none of us ever wanted to have kids ever again in our lifetime, we wouldn't need any future development, right? But the reality is we're still growing as a society, so we need development. But that doesn't mean that everything should be developed. I think we need to be very smart and sensitive about how we do that, and I think we need to do it in a very sustainable way, in a thoughtful and sustainable way. And one of the things that drew us to this was that here we had a building that had been sitting there for 20 years, but it wasn't any kind of building. It wasn't a shell of a building. It had a history, and it had a past, and it had stories, and we've got celebrities here today. We've got Vern that worked at the resort, and his mom in 1961. We got George Costa with us that is a very integral part of this property. So it was it was that drew us to this project. But when we set out on this journey, we wanted to do it the right way. And we don't, we always say nothing's a touchy subject. We don't want to mask anything. We know that with development does come problems. With population growth comes problems, right? Back in the 1900s, we didn't worry about GMOs, and we didn't worry about mass producing all our food for the amount of population that exists today. Now we have a different set of problems. But fortunately, we're smarter as we advance through society and technology gets better. There are ways to mitigate a lot of these things. So that being said, let me run through the development plan, and then we can do a Q&A, but let me try and address a lot of the things that we're hearing here. So our understanding, our best count that we got when the property was running prior to Hurricane Iniki was September 11th of 1992 of all dates. There was anywhere from 403 to 398 rooms that existed. So we're going to renovate the Coco Palms. We'd like to bring back the old Coco Palms. We're actually going to be decreasing rooms. So it'll be a total of 350 rooms. Of that, there's about 290,000 square feet of developable area. Because of the Hurricane Iniki ordinance, we're not going to be increasing the footprint or expanding the square footage that existed prior to Iniki. So another theme that comes up is the iwi kapuna and the, where are those different sites located. So there has been some studies that have been done on that, which is in that application that we provided to RAIN. So there's about a 100-page study, archaeological inventory and survey that was done that you all have access to, that you can read that. But the idea is, if we stick with what is already built, then we don't have to go and disrupt any other dirt or soils on the site. And so we're just using the existing square footage. So we are, though, however, we're going to be adding some parking from what existed there originally. There's 4 different permits that we need to get in order to get the green light from the county of Kauai to do this project. There's a Class 4 zoning permit. There's a public development use permit. There's a SMA because we're in the special management area. We're so close to the shoreline here permit. And there's a variance use permit because of the way that when this was originally built, the CZOs, the county zoning ordinances, didn't exist, and then now they do, and so we need some variances based upon the county zoning ordinances. And that typically has to do with parking. So our understanding was when the hotel was in full swing, 403 rooms, 222 parking spots. We want to do 350 rooms and have about 400 parking spots, give or take. We are going to have some public parking for the beach here on the left side of the property. And in one of these buildings here, we do want to have a public restroom so that it can communicate with the beach here. We do have the property in general is split up into 4 major sections. So we have the main developable portion of the property. It's about 12.8 acres. This is where all of the buildings will sit. Then we go into the Coconut Grove. This is a leasehold property with the state of Hawaii. And so this stays exactly how it is. We hope to beautify it, and we hope to plant some native plants and fruits and vegetables in here that will allow us to do some farm-to-table things with our restaurants there. And then behind that, we've got another 18 acres. Of the 18 acres, 4 of that is zoned open. The 4 acres that are zoned open, we're going to be donating to the Cultural Advisory Committee. We think that this will be the catalyst and the epicenter for all of the cultural activities to be able to come and be brought onto the property. You had asked about the idea of the Cultural Advisory Committee. It's our hope that in going through the journey with Coco Palms, we can create a committee that outlasts not only the next 5 years, or 30 years, or 40 years, or 50 years. Because let's face it, this resort isn't necessarily for us, it's for our kids. It's for their grandkids. It's for creating and continuing this legacy that was created by Grace. And so we hope that this Cultural Advisory Committee is something that outlasts all of us and can be an example for other hotels in the idea of bringing back the sense of aloha. We think sometimes hotel properties, because of the attraction for people to come to Hawaii, really forget that true sense of place and that sense of aloha from its most genuine form. And we hope that with the guidance of the Cultural Committee, we can bring that back. And so then other hotels are going to see what we do here and hopefully hire them to do the same thing. So our training with our employees is actually not going to be directly, in terms of the cultural side, isn't going to be handled by Hyatt. It's going to be handled by the Cultural Cultural Advisory Committee. Because everybody that steps foot on that property that's an employee, no matter where you're at in the employee list, needs to be cultured and needs to be educated about the history there. Needs to learn how to pronounce the names the right way. Needs to get that sense of place and really needs to understand the history there. And that's why Coco Palms is so special. So we look at those entities. You've got Hyatt as the hotel operator. And all we're asking Hyatt to do is fill the rooms up. Just go in and you've got a large reservation platform. Bring people here and fill the rooms up. And then we're asking the Cultural Advisory Committee to bring in the cultural sense of that. So they're actually going to be educating the Hyatt employees. So we've got the 4-acre piece that we donate to the Cultural Advisory Committee. And then we've got an additional 18 acres back behind it. It doesn't show on this map, but it's about right in here. And it's state land use conservation. That we do want to do a photovoltaic solar field there. And we'd like to power the resort and get as far off the grid as possible and hopefully be able to power the resort fully by solar. That, though, is a process because that's under the state's jurisdiction. And so we haven't been able to apply for that yet, but that is our goal. We've tried to be very open about what our plans and our intentions are there. And we do hope to have that property fully off the grid. We do want to do some things on the rooftops. We'd like to do some farm-to-table stuff, as I mentioned. We'd like to utilize some of the rooftops there. One of the suggestions was hula for health. My mom's probably 65, 67, and has never had a chance to do hula, but now as she's getting kind of more towards her golden years, is looking for ways to be active. And what a great way to get everyone involved and have hula for health, and to be able to do that on the rooftop decks there. And so that's one of the programs that we'd like to do. So if we separate out those 4, or the fourth one, excuse me, is the Seashell Restaurant. And this is a 4,800 square foot property, give or take. This did exist pre-Aniki, and we have asked Jean-Marie Jocelyn. He has a restaurant in Kapui'ula down in Poipu, and then also JO2's here in Kauai. And so if you haven't gone there, I encourage you to go there. He's a great chef and highly respected. We've asked him to come in and handle this restaurant here. From the food and beverage standpoint in general, we've got the Seashell, which is separate from Hyatt. We've got the restaurant, the Lotus Room, and Vern would know these better than I would, but the Lotus Room and the Flame Bar, I believe, is what they were called. And so these will be under the Hyatt umbrella, if you will. And then this will be under Jean-Marie. We do want to do, in the cultural piece back here, we would like to do luau's. And we'd like to do that in concert with the Smith family luau and alternate days, because they've got a great luau program there, which we love. And if you haven't been there, I encourage you to go there. It's great. I went there and it was wonderful. But so we're going to, because they do it every other day, so we figured we'd do it every other day and be able to work together in terms of creating more luau space there. And then we also would like to do weddings there. There is going to be a, call it a tented canopy there, which we would use for, maybe outdoor banquets, outdoor meetings, the luau's, so on and so forth, back on that 4-acre piece. In that, and then we do have the Queen's Audience Hall. There won't be a large kitchen back in here. There will be some food prep going on for, some meetings and so on and so forth. This space is about 25,000 square feet. And so that exists today, and we'd like to bring that out. We would like to have a spa and a gym there. The spa is about 9,000 square feet, and we haven't decided how much of that is going to be spa and how much of that is going to be gym. Part of that's this building here. Part of that is going to be public restrooms that we're going to provide for people coming and going to the beach. Some of the issues that we're all hearing, of course, is well, first, safety. How do you get these people across the street without creating any additional congestion? It's no secret. This road is, and even in Kauai, it's no secret there are traffic issues. And so I can't promise you that, we've worked out all of the traffic issues, because we haven't. We're still working through those. So we're doing a traffic impact study right now, and we're working with Department of Transportation and trying to figure out the best way to do that. So 2 things on that is we'd like to do a shuttle that basically runs through the gut of the property, kind of like those large golf carts, if you will, that seat, call it 7 to 10 people with a flatbed in the back that would bring people to the beach. We would like that shuttle to run down, pick guests up, come here, and then come down here and drop them off here at the beach. For the guests that do not want to use the shuttle, and also for the public that don't want to use the shuttle is a public shuttle. So if you were to come here with your family and wanted to enjoy the day at the beach, you can come and park here. There'll be public parking spots here. You can pick up the shuttle and then go across the street. If you do not want to use the shuttle, there's a crosswalk here, as everybody knows, that will get you across the street there to the beach. The ingress and egress is something that right now is a big question mark. And that is because we have to get that traffic impact study back. We understand, based upon the house lots here back behind us, that this road is an issue. And so what we originally were thinking about, well, what if people coming from the airport, and let me take a further step back. One of the things that hasn't been, before I get into the travel, one of the things that hasn't been highlighted, in our opinion, about Kauai and about this property is it's equidistant between the North Shore and the South Shore. You're 7 miles away from the airport. You really don't need a car. If we're creative enough, visitors can still come in. We can pick them up on a shuttle bus, bring them to the resort. We could set up a tour one morning to go and knock out all the things in their travel book that they wanted to do in the North Shore. Then they can be back to the resort by 2 or 3. They can rent a bike here from the bike shop. They can ride the bike path. They can sit at the beach. They can be there in time for the torch lighting ceremony and just relax in the retreat-like setting that Coco Palms was. And then the next morning they can wake up. We can arrange a tour for them to go to Poipu and knock out all the things in their travel book in Poipu that they want to do and do the same thing. So within the course of 2 mornings, without a car, in a visitor's mind, you can do all of the things that they think they want to do when they come to Kauai. But yet, a lot of these resorts haven't necessarily pushed the idea that it's okay to show up without a car. I think that visitors are such in the mindset, and I'm guilty of it too, that you have to have a car everywhere you go. Well, you don't, because this bike path really has connected, in our opinion, everything from historic Kapaa down, all the way down Coconut Coast. And so we are trying to mitigate that as much as possible. But for the cars that do come to the resort, our original thought was that they would come past Kuamo'o Road, they'd go down Kuhio Highway, turn on Hale'ilio, and then on Apana, and this would be the main ingress. And the idea, the thought behind it, was that they would come in here, and this would be a one-way, and they would come through, check in, there's parking underneath these buildings, parking here for the bungalow suites, and then they would come out, and this would be the egress. And the only cars that could come out of here would be people leaving the resort, and then we would allow the shuttle to come in and out of here as well. We're still working through the logistics of that, and the reason being is that the state, Kuhio Highway, as you know, is a state property, and the state is going to be expanding Kuhio Highway. And there's conversations about having an ingress and egress here. So about us donating some more of our property to the right-of-way here, and actually having people come in this way and then exit this way before the light here. And so we are working through that to see if that's a better way to mitigate the traffic impacts here on Kuamo'o and then here on Hale'ilio. So still a question mark. As soon as we get that traffic impact study, we're happy to share it with everybody. But it's mentioned in the application that we provided to RAIN. So if, once again, if you wanted to get that application, it's pretty lengthy reading, but a lot of the answers to these questions are in that application.
So right now, because it's such a large document, I think we only have the SMA portion of a permit application up. And maybe we'll have to get a Dropbox or to access the entire document because it is so large.
There's 363 pages in there. It includes the archaeological studies.
So right now we have the site plans and I think the SMA permit.
Yeah, so we can check to see what's in there, and we're happy to provide anything that's public information. We're happy to provide. So that's how we hope to work through that. But once again, there are some question marks on the traffic. In terms of sewer was another thing that came up with some of these other developments. We are working through the sewer issues. We have been working also with Department of Water. We have to do what's called a water demand study based upon our fixture counts that will be in the property, and so we have to get them to chime in as well. And so there's still as many of you heard, we were on the docket for December 9th for the public hearing. That has been pushed to January 27th. The reason why that has been pushed is because we need to give these agencies enough time to write their recommendations and to write their reports. From those agency reports, that then gets turned into what's called the staff report with planning. And that then would be basically the suggestions from the county as to what needs to happen and what needs to be done prior to starting this project. One thing that I have seen in being here in Kauai is I'm really grateful for the county of Kauai. Really grateful for all of you coming today and sharing your suggestions with us. And I find that the county of Kauai has done an excellent job at working through all of these questions that need to be answered prior to starting this. And so they've done their best to respond as quickly and timely as they can, but there's just so many things to answer here, so that was why we needed to push that to January 27th. So that's kind of the gist of it. I think if there's any one thing I'd like to leave with you today is we understand that Kauai is a special place. And we understand that there are some other projects on the dockets that may or may not make sense for certain people. For us, Coco Palms makes great sense, not only because of the jobs that it will provide,